Hello, everyone. Welcome to Our Dyslexia live show. We're in a slight different location today. I said location. I'm in my kitchen, believe it or not, doing this live show. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining. No matter where you're watching from, whether it's I don't know, all over the world. Normally we get so many people watching this program. We just want to welcome everybody. I want to say good morning. If you're in a country where it's just morning now, I want to say hello. I want to say good evening. And we are live from London. I'm in Wimbledon in London, and we've got a studio person who's working behind the scene. He's in Manchester. We've got the lovely Sabrina Ben-Salmi, who is joining us today. And talking about social entrepreneur and dyslexia. So the title of the show today is Dyslexia and Social Entrepreneurship. You are not defined by your dyslexia. Sabrina is an amazing social entrepreneur. Most of you watching today might already know who she is. And if you don't know who she is, I would say, well, grab yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, a bottle of water, probably, then a glass of wine, if I can say that, and you will absolutely love the show. With COVID-19 and all sorts of things happening at the moment, people are unemployed. You may be thinking of an idea, but haven't really kind of brought it to fruition, if that's the right word to say. If not, I use another word. It hasn't really come live for you. So no matter what idea you might have, after watching this show today, you might decide that actually, I've got an idea and this is what I want to do. And as you know, 20% of dyslexics are self-starters for businesses, ideas, invention. So I hope you can watch this show till the end, and I hope you enjoy it. So I won't sort of go on too much. I just want to introduce Sabrina Ben-Salmi, who is joining us from Romford, London today. Sabrina, welcome to A to I Dyslexia live show, All Things Dyslexia.
Oh, beautiful.
It's such a pleasure having you on this show. I'm really excited to have you on the show today to talk to us about the great work that you're doing. You're doing amazing work. And I've known you for some time now, and I follow everything you do, by the way. I'm always liking everything, Facebook, LinkedIn. You're such a phenomenal young lady, if I can use that word. One of the things that was really close to my heart when you won the Mother of the Award, helping you to the future-proof your children. You're ranked number 2 most inspirational Black woman in the UK. I don't know if you know how amazing that is to be awarded that. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand it over to you now to give us a little introduction about yourself and tell us how all this started. Who is Sabrina Ben-Salmi?
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me into this space. It was very touching when you reached out to me and had this conversation. So as Lizzie said, my name is Sabrina Ben-Salmi. I am a mother of 5. I'm one of the co-founders of Sava. So it's a platform turning the next generation of learners into leaders. And I'm an author, publisher, public speaker, and a business and personal development consultant. And my heart and my passion is around community and family. Like, you'll always see me involved in that to some essence. I've set up a secondary school in West Croydon with a Wemade Orbital. This gentleman actually built the school for his son from the ground zero. That's another story that deserves to be aired at some point. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Right. Now, I want to know a little bit about you, because your story is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. You've got 5 children. Each one of those children of yours is an author. And I think it's so amazing. I've never really known anyone whose kids are entrepreneurs at this stage. And I think there's a bit of a story as to why you started your business and you became a social entrepreneur. Would you be able to tell the viewers and us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You see, often they talk about that everything starts with the vision of just a mustard seed, right? Just that level of belief. So my one started with a lot of pain and confusion around being a young adult, embarking on this journey of adulthood and just being absolutely petrified by life, financial education, like just lacking in all these core areas. But my one thing that was really hard for me was my confidence so low, lack of self-worth, confidence. And what I realized is that when I became a mother, I look back at my journey as a child and I said that I realized that I was shut down at a very young age, be it at school, family. My mother always told, supported me the best she could, but I mean, other family members. And in those time when I was being raised, it was a case that children were seen and not heard. So the impact that had on someone that had learning disabilities, and I didn't know, so it wasn't diagnosed, I just knew I was different, if that makes sense. So growing up was a massive lesson for me, because I used to borrow that wisdom to impact my children's lives. So the reason they do what they do today is because I wanted them to have more freedom, more support, more know-how. Whereas I felt that as a parent, we need to facilitate their development, not carve it out for them. I also felt that we had a sense of responsibility to hand them the baton, as opposed to letting them start the relay over and over again from generation to generation. And that always really confused me.
Right. Wow. When I actually, I think I read online that you posted something and said, did you know I am dyslexic? And in fact, that I was like, really? Okay. It was a bit of a shock for me, because it was like, and then it made sense. I thought, okay, of course it makes sense, Lizzie. She's dyslexic. She's got all these brilliant ideas. Why are you so surprised? But it was so, what's the word I'm looking for? It was amazing to know that you've got dyslexia, and yet, Black woman with dyslexia, with a family, you still manage to do all the amazing things you do. And I remember some time ago, I reached out to a friend. I said, look, I need someone to do like a podcast for me. And I also want to write a book. And she said, oh, I'm going to introduce you to somebody. So she actually sent me a details. I thought, oh, that name sounds familiar. I thought, it's Sabrina, at the time. And I actually said to her, I know Sabrina. And she was like, well, look, that's a woman you're looking for. That was awesome to just have just had that experience. So it's amazing to have you on the show. And I just want to say to our viewers, anyone that's watching today, no matter what the idea may be, no matter what you're going through right now, you may feel like there's no hope. Trust me, after today's show, I know you would definitely be able to fulfill that dream that you've always wanted to fulfill. I always say that not everybody will be an entrepreneur, but it could be a possibility as we speak right now. So Sabrina, I'm going to move on to my first question. So what does social entrepreneur mean to you as a dyslexic?
So for me, when I hear the word dyslexia, I had to reterm it as a superhero skill. You see, one of the things I had to do quite quickly, and this is the reason why no one really knows and was quite shocked when I spoke about it, is because I didn't allow it to define who I was as a person. And it was a choice I made. See, at that point, I had to actually learn to shed the skin of what it was, the old labeling. Because first and foremost, it's a very negative, derogatory term that we throw out there as someone's dumb, they're stupid. But that's not the case. You just have different ways of absorbing information. And once you learn your specific way, because again, there's many different spectrums. Okay.
Yes.
And people just think it's just one thing. It's not. There are many different spectrums. Like I remember being in the assessment room and the guy said to me, does the words, do the letters jump up and down and turn around? I was like, no, if that happened, I would be so scared. So we can't just label it as what it is. And then one thing that I really say to the viewers is that I love the title that you gave this show, by the way. It was Elizabeth that named this. And it's a case of when I hear the word dyslexia, I see a superhero. I see someone that had to define themselves and wade through all of the labels and expectations that life would have been thrown at them from a very young age. Because I can't speak for anyone else, but I can speak for my own personal journey, is that I remember growing up and feeling so different. I never knew why. So this is younger Sabrina, and I never fit in. I didn't fit in at all. I was bullied. I was bullied for a number of things, but I've got a scar. So anyone that's met me would see a scar. And often people thought it was to do with thyroids, but it was a tracheostomy I had. So here you would imagine a young girl, tracheostomy, a big metal opening here. I had to put my finger on it to speak, and I had dyslexia. So you can imagine what I went through. So that part of my life really taught me that if I become the term what everyone thought I would be, I'm not going to get anywhere. And, you know, in those days, they used to have the cone hat and they would call you dunce and ask you to stand in the corner. And it was painful. It was really painful. I remember one instance when we were at church and these two sisters from the church said to me that, you know, it's a sin if you cannot read the Bible. Ooh. And again, it wasn't so much the dyslexia that disempowered me. It was what was going on around me. So there I was thinking that I was evil, thinking that if I can't read the Bible, I'm going to go to hell. So I had all this fear in me and thinking like I was such a bad person. And often for a lot of people that are dyslexic, there's a lot of confusion, let alone what's going on outside in the outside world. So for me, there was a lot of internal confusion.
Right. Okay. Wow. I mean, today we've got some PowerPoint presentations, and just to let our viewers know that I just felt that as dyslexics, it's really amazing to have the visuals there telling the story, and it's just absolutely fantastic to kind of have a bit of creativity going on today. So if you see the question come up in the PowerPoint pop, that's what it is. What a cute little Sabrina that is. Amazing, cute little girl you are. And as we were speaking, I was a bit choked actually. I didn't realize that you had other, would you say that I'm not too sure how you pronounce it, but the thing that was in your throat,
tracheostomy,
is that would have been a form of disability maybe?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So this was actually connected. So they wasn't sure if mine was a learned behavior or hereditary, like genetic. So when I was born, I actually died twice, two or three times when I was between the age of 6 months and 1. And they had to do this an emergency tracheostomy. So what actually happened is that my brain was starved of oxygen for such a long time that they thought that even if I did survive, I would have brain damage, severe brain damage. So one of the issues that I did have was memory. I struggled with memory. So they weren't too sure that it was dyslexia, and they didn't diagnose with anything in terms of learning disabilities, but I was a disabled child throughout my childhood.
Wow, Sabrina, I hope I can hold the tears back today.
So I lived in hospital for a long time, actually. I lived in Great Ormond Street. I lived in the Royal London. My mum had to visit me there quite a lot. That was my place of residence for quite many years in different respects, because I was very sick. You know, Great Ormond Street, they saved my life. And there was so much, I think there was quite a few hospitals that I was at, because I was in a dire state. And especially in that time in the 80s, you imagine the contractions would be really scary, like something out of a sci-fi. So my mum had to put this tube down my neck, and this kind of spacesuit thing you had to kind of pump up. It looked like oxygen for an astronaut, basically. So just that whole encapsulation of who I was, the trauma, not knowing, you know, just that internal confusion caused a lot of problems in my childhood.
Wow. So right. It's just so, you know, it's amazing to hear that just having dyslexia alone is, for me, was a real, I can't even explain it to you. To have had something added to that, I take my hat off to you. Honestly, you've done so well. Your story is so amazing, honestly. And I've just said, anybody who's joined us now and who's watching, welcome to the show. I hope you got a box of tissue somewhere. And if the tears start coming down, trust me, it's tears of joy, because I really celebrate you, Sabrina. I think there'll be many people watching today, and they probably think, actually, you know, you are an inspirational to many people, particularly within the Black community. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. Going back to not being able to read the Bible, and you know, people think in the church they might think it's a sin. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I really struggle to read the Bible. You know, I can read the basic ones, but there are bits and bits with the big fat words, and I don't quite kind of know how to pronounce them or say them. So sometimes I'll skip over them. Not the best thing to do, but I don't know how to pronounce them. So I get where you're coming from that. And when I was a child, I used to think, well, actually, if I can't read it, then I'm not too sure what's going on in terms of biblically. But hey, we're grown up now, and now it's even brilliant that we can get the audio version, which is absolutely amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that bit of your journey with us. So if anybody's joined us today, I won't say this evening, because some people might be in another country and it's morning or afternoon. The title of the show today is Dyslexia and Social Entrepreneur. You are not defined by your dyslexia, and rightly so. So I'm just going to move on to the next question now, Sabrina. How do you turn dyslexia weaknesses into a strength and failure into success? How do we do that as dyslexics? We have so many clients come to us and say, look, I've got a burning, brilliant idea. I can't move it forward to the next level. What sort of advice would you give them? But obviously, going back to this one, I'll ask you, how do we turn dyslexia weaknesses into a strength? And failure into success?
I love your questions first and foremost. I think they're so beautiful. For me personally, I always believe when you've got a why, it changes everything. So if you feel that when you fall down, it's a failure. If you feel that these things are failure, you're actually deleting the premise. You're deleting, distorting, and generalizing the fact that you've just found another way for it not to work, which brings you close to the way that does work. So it really talks about coming home first and talking about, how do I shift my perspective? So in our family, we have a family anthem. And to start off the family anthem, we have mantras, 2 mantras. And one of them is that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So now if you change it from failure to feedback, now what's the problem? Because you're just getting feedback. So if you've got a product that you're bringing to market, if you've got a system that you're working on, the more you're with the client, the more the client succeeds and then comes back and gives you some feedback. It's not failure, right? It's another opportunity for you to fine tune that which you desire to put out into the world. So it really comes back to the perspective of how you look at life. But let's go back to the original question. If you do see it as failure, it's for you to say, well, if I've fallen this many times, it goes to show that I won't be the only person in the world out of 7 billion plus that would have fallen, right, at this hurdle. So maybe there's a handful of people that you can talk to and share, because often we think it's only the triumphs that people can learn from, and it's not. You may be someone that's had a lot of pain in relationships, in business. Wouldn't it be amazing if you can say, you know what, there's some holes that you can avoid in this journey. One of the things I used to do was this. I'm really good at failing. Imagine how you now catapult your so-called failure.
Absolutely. Wow. How amazing is that? You couldn't put that any other better way, to be honest with you. And thank you so much for that answer that you gave us there. I know a few people have joined us. Heather, who's joined us, has said, hello, ladies. I think normally Alex in our studio is very good at sort of popping the question back up again. I think there's another lady that joined us. Because my memory is gone. There's Heather. Hello, ladies. Thank you, Heather. And of course, there's someone else who joined us. I'm not too sure what her name is. Leslie. Hello, ladies. I think she had another comment as well that came up earlier. I think she was really blown away with the beginning of your story and how everything started off. How amazing. I'm so inspired is the answer that she's put there. I don't know if anybody's ever met Sabrina. She's the most humble, down to earth human being I've ever met. Honestly, she will go out her way to give you every information, every advice you need. So I feel really privileged to have you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I just feel like I just want to answer your question. I think I've answered part of it. In order to think about our strengths and weaknesses, perspective will serve, definitely, but I think it's nice if I just add this on. So if you know that there's areas in your life that you just have a serious weakness and you don't have that skill set, do what the greatest do. Leverage, build a team. You know, we can go far along, but we can go so much further together. So you start mapping out, like one of the exercises I love to do, which was taught to me by my mentor, Regan Hillier, is just an A4 sheet of paper, and you draw a line down the middle and a line straight across. And what you end up with 4 separate sections. Section 1, what am I good at? Section 2, what do I love to do? Section 3, what am I not good at? Section 4, what do I not love to do? That simple exercise will help to really strengthen you in the areas that you find a bit challenging, and how it's that it starts highlighting where do you need to spend most of your energy and who do you need to start recruiting to join your team to support that balance.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, Sabrina, we're not always going to be brilliant at everything. You know, I think sometimes we have to be true to ourselves and say, actually, that's not my strength. Who can I hire to be able to do that? And obviously, starting off a business can be a bit difficult when you've got no money up front and you're hiring. But I know, you're setting up so many businesses that sometimes somebody somewhere is willing to help as a mentor.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I've got a mentor who is more than happy to steer me the right way when I need that support. So it shouldn't really stop anyone really by saying, well, actually, there's a young man who actually was looking for a mentor. It was on LinkedIn, and he said, look, is there anybody who can help me, because I'm trying to set up a CIC. So I hope he's watching the program this evening as well. Yeah. Now, Sabrina, talk me through how many businesses you have You are
Oh God,
a great social entrepreneur.
that's an awesome question. So,
Yeah.
2006, I set up the Mobile Single Parents Project. What was the Mothers Project became Parents, because single parenting does not get any easier just because of your gender. So I set that up. That's a social enterprise, and that was just doing all kinds of support for single parents. So I would apply for grants, support them at court, get them moved. We did everything because I knew how hard single parents work. My mother used to work 3 jobs, look after me. I was a disabled child, so it's hard work, right? You know, it's hard enough with parents on your own. You know, it's just mammoth task. So I had that one. We converted over into Dream Big Together, what you see now, the consultancy. So I work with adults and parents, and then we have each of my children, because obviously I manage what they have, so they each have their own brands. And then recently we've set up Sava, so that's our latest one, Next Generation Education. But to be honest with you, I couldn't even answer you, and I'm just going to be entirely honest. So we are involved in a host of masterminds, one of them being a diaspora mastermind group. So we have blanket projects that we do across the world in different capacities. So we're involved in quite a lot. We also do investing. We invest in new businesses. So there's a little bit of philanthropy we're getting involved in. Gosh, yeah, that's such a good question. I've set up a secondary school in West Croydon. So it's about understanding that we are infinite. And when we understand that, we can scatter our seeds in so many different respects, and pure magic starts to happen.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so amazing, honestly. Oh, you know, I'm blown away. trying to run A2I one on its own, I'm like, oh, right, okay. But I've got so many bright ideas, Sabrina, if I must be honest with you. I've got about 6 or 7 different businesses going on in my head. And I'm like, I'm going to execute all these businesses.
Yes, you will. Yes,
before the Lord calls me. Yes, I will be doing all that. Yes. Wonderful. And with all this together, you still a very dedicated Christian. You know, your children are all Christians, go to church and so forth. And
so our praising time is different. So when I got married in 2006, I'm married to a Muslim gentleman. So there was we didn't used to go to church as much there, just with the marital side. But, you know, everything I do in my life is a testimony for my Creator, because the relationship that I have with God, I really attain it to connect it to everything I've achieved in life. You know, from where I came from to where we are today, it doesn't make any sense. So the only thing I can say is just, it's God.
Absolutely. And I know that there's been times with A2I dyslexia when I think, right, that's I've had enough. I just can't do this anymore. And then I hear a voice saying to me, you're the messenger, you're the servant. You go there and deliver what you need to deliver. Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Absolutely. When it's such a passion and you know that it's a calling, that's it. You just kind of, you know, you do it to the best of your ability.
Oh, you're getting me excited now. that is exactly why this slide was put together, because we have our plan and then God has his plan.
Absolutely.
And when we understand that the why is the postcode for the soul. It doesn't reveal to us in this big blanket image. It's just little incremental steps. And as we just surrender to that process, absolute phenomenal things start to happen.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much for that. So viewers, if you've joined us now, drop the question, drop the comments, share with your friends. We're live on A2I Dyslexia Facebook page. We're also live on YouTube. Invite your friends and really ask all the questions. Sometimes you feel like, oh, is that a silly question? No question is silly, to be honest with you. And you've got Sabrina today. We managed to finally get her. So please, you know, fire over all the questions that you've got. So I'm just going to move on to the next question now, Sabrina. We often hear about dyslexia and creativity. How does individual dyslexic utilize this?
Me personally, entrepreneurship gave me my space to be me. I struggled, like I've never had a full-time job. I struggled at school, not because of the academic side as such. It's just that the way it was taught, I just didn't really connect. I've always been very expansive, out of the box, get rid of that entirely. So for me personally, I think that entrepreneurship really made me realize that life is the canvas and we are the artist, and what we choose to create is entirely up to us. So for me, it allowed me to express myself in all of those different dynamics. It allowed me to rebuild that relationship with myself. So I think that when I became an entrepreneur, and I really for me, when I say, I always rename things for me, they have different meanings to me.
Yeah.
So we are naturally creators. So entrepreneurship allowed me to create. And what I realized is that I went on a healing process when I became an entrepreneur, and I never knew it would be so deep. It was a healing process so that I became fully who I was, and I was able to share with people my thought process and create things, because there's no rules, right? There are no rules for entrepreneurship. You find a problem, you come up with a solution, and you package those ideas.
Absolutely. Wow. Fantastic. Now, I'm moving on to the most amazing question. I can't wait to ask you this question. Right. So I understand you have 5 children. All your children, there they are. Amazing. I've met all of them, which is wonderful, fantastic. I've also met your mum, which is amazing. Yes. And your mum's also dyslexic, isn't she, Sabrina? Yeah. Yes. And you're an only child, aren't you? You're an only child.
I am an only child from my mother, but I have half siblings on my father's side.
Right. So your 5 children, which each one of them are authors, and they're also entrepreneurs, including, how old is the little one, the youngest one?
Little Amir, he's just turned 7 in May.
Wow. And how many books has he published?
4. He's just published his 4th one. I've got them with me. I could run you through them.
That's mind-blowing. I often say to my daughter, instead of being on that TikTok, do you want to start writing your book, Janae? And she would say, not yet, mommy, not when I'm 40. Until I'm 40. I'm like, no. She just doesn't understand that she can actually be an entrepreneur.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what? I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of parents ask me that very question. How do you get them to start? And sorry to cut you. I just wanted to answer this with your daughter. It's about how we ask the question, not the question itself. So what if you say to her, can we start using some of your TikTok topics as the book, what she's already doing? So what I didn't do with my children, they don't sit down and create these, they're kids, that would just be such an arduous task, and I don't think I would have any strength for me left, to be honest. So it's about incorporating everything they do in their daily life. So a lot of the books that my kids have written are experiential learnings that they've gone on themselves. So it's not taking them away from and asking them to teach us. That is such a powerful question. They light up. They go, okay, mommy, I'll teach you. You always get it wrong. They love being given that kind of leading role. They love to feel that they're adding and impacting, and the rest will just happen naturally.
Fantastic. So go through the ages for me. How old is the oldest one? And I think he's actually won an award recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, so gosh, they've all, I've lost count. It's so awful. But so the oldest one is Lachey. She's 20, just turned 20 in June, actually. So Lachey's won about 11 awards now. So she made history by becoming the youngest ever award winner for Unlimited. When she was 11, she won an award there. She's won a Rotary Award. She's won a BYA award. She became the youngest ever one to enroll in the Public Speaking Academy that's run by Andy Harrington, became his youngest ever ACE coach. The reason why I'm emphasizing this over and over again, we are not defined by our dyslexia. And this is really why I want you to understand. The more you think that your dyslexia is your enemy, the more you think that that's the issue, you're fighting against yourself. Surrender, let go, repurpose, relabel. What does it mean for you? So I never allowed that to stop me educating my kids. It never stopped me from learning with them. Okay, so Lachey went on to do so many different things. So now she's on to publishing, I think it's her 8th book. She's got her own publishing house, and the whole aspect, you'll hear the thread, ownership. I want my children to own their space, own their freedom. But there's something very powerful. This was never about them becoming business owners. My primary why was to seed in their mind an entrepreneurial mindset, because the entrepreneurial mindset is that once you learn it, you don't unlearn it. Okay, that's the seed for freedom. But what I didn't know, going back to what God's vision is and my vision, is that once you activate that essence, they just go off on a whole new dynamic. So that's Lachey. Lachey is very, very artistic. Lachey, everything's arted, drawing, visuals, and she actually loves language. Everything about her is about culture and language. And again, she had hobbies, and her hobbies became her businesses, her brands. So she went on to learn Korean, teach herself Korean. She now works with the Korean Culture Center. Her work has been accredited by the Korean ambassador who we've met, who is absolutely in love with Lachey's work. they produce annuals, and every annual they credit my daughter's work in it, and it's mind-blowing for me because I'm seeing God's work in action. This isn't my doing, this is what they're doing as a result of knowing that they have a thought, they can trust themselves, and then they can share. Because I was shut down, I didn't start speaking until I was 35, and that's a very long time to just be a caged bird, you know, just scared of everything around you. It's not good, and I didn't want that for my children. So she went on to do all these wonderful things, ended up on, they put on BBC Korea. Like, it's been a whirlwind of just magic. And we was in Korea last year, and they treated her like a queen. They took her out to dinner. And I'm just going, wow, what if I believed what everyone told me? I would not only entrap myself, but I would have entrapped my children. So that's what she does. I've got a couple of books that she's published here, property book. This is one of her first ones. And then you've got Trayshawn. So Trayshawn is 15. Oh, yeah. Trayshawn gave me a few challenges. He would be running around my house and saying, Mom, maths challenge, maths challenge. Now, for me, I was like, I can do maths, but mine, you know, 3 digits, 4 digits, and that's it. He would reel out these long digits. And I knew that he was a mathematical genius because he would ask the most complex equations. And I'm trying to cook an evening meal for my family. And he would just go on about numbers and money. And he's always been in love. So he's published, this is one of his books, The Road to Child Genius. So he was actually on Child Genius, a Channel 4 program. He was recognized as one of the smartest children in the whole of the UK for 2017. And he went on to be invited to Eton to sit papers, one of 34 boys. And the reason, again, I'm sharing this with you, what if I believed, what if I listened?
Exactly.
Okay. So he is on his 13th book right now. He loves it. They co-author with each other, with people, with their mentors, and it's mind-blowing. So now Trayshawn's living his best life because he's gone into the area he loves. He has a mentor called Jurgen Palian, 2 years teaching him how to trade online, live trading. Here in the UK, our children can open up trading accounts under the age of 18. We're one of few countries that do that. Not every country can. And his mentor has taught him to live trade. He can't access the money until he's 18, but he has that. And remember what I said, once you learn, you can't unlearn. So forever, he has that skill of knowing financial education. And what I would really love about that is the interaction of adding mentors into their lives. And this is really how we actually started to get to where we were going, is by just honoring our truth. You know, don't be scared. You know, you being scared is the one thing that's holding you back. Then we have Yasmin. Yasmin is 12. She's going to be 13 this year. I can't believe it. So she's just published this book. This one's The Choice Is Yours, When I Chose to Be in the Choice. This is her 4th book. And Yasmin is our lover bear. She's very, very gentle, very sensitive. And she went through a lot. Bullying. Unfortunately, all the kids went through a lot of bullying. But she was more sensitive. So it really impacted her in a negative way. So she chose to write about that. So a lot of her books are about forgiveness and healing. Again, it's their life experiences. It's not hard for them because they've already lived that experience. You've got Paolo. He is 11 and pint-sized adventurer. So he's on to his 4th book. He's actually working on his 5th one at the moment. He really enjoys it. And they all have their publishing houses. It's a system. They all follow the same systems, but the unique essence is that they interject their unique personalities. And then the last one, last but not least, is Little Amir. And his one's called Because I'm Intelligent, I Become What I Affirm.
Absolutely.
He is Mr. Affirmation. He's always said, Mummy said this. He likes to stick to rules, and you know, he's in charge. He really is the one in charge in our house. And it's interesting because all of them have won a host of awards. They're all ambassadors for different brands. And what really marveled me is that 2019, when I started to homeschool my children, we actually were introduced to Brunel University, and a beautiful woman named Leslie Warren. She gifted them something that was beyond my comprehension. So they run masterclasses at universities. Now, just to give you an idea, between 7,000 to 10,000 for masterclasses. So she gave us 5 fully funded spaces. And because my son was able to keep up the little one, he was only 6, it's for year 9. They actually made him the youngest ever ambassador for Brunel University.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Fast forward to 2020. were able to be in negotiation with Brunel, and we were able to assist to open up the floodgates for 20 fully funded spaces for other homeschool families. So what I want to tell you is that if we surrender to the process, if we allow the true essence of who we are, irrespective of the labels, we don't only liberate ourselves, but we liberate others, and we make history over and over again because we trust the natural creative ability that dyslexics seem to have in a very magical way. A lot of leaders and entrepreneurs, people that are changing the world, a lot of them have a dyslexic profile. And it's amazing. And dyslexia does not affect your IQ. So I just want you to listen to that. It doesn't mean that you're dunce or stupid, as some people will say. That's not what it means.
Exactly. And I've just got thank you for all that. That's amazing, Sabrina. I've just got a little message from Leslie. I've stopped thinking I couldn't achieve. I'm so happy I've pushed myself, and I'm at university studying multimedia journalism.
Oh, wow. See?
Okay.
Beautiful.
So she's got a question. How do you bring up an amazing family and then still working on all these businesses? And she said, you are amazing. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. And you're awesome being at uni. That's amazing. Yeah. So to answer that question, the short answer is that I don't see them as businesses. What I do is first start with, what is it that I'm passionate about? What do I enjoy? So if you remember, everything I do is around family. So my biggest dream ever, like being an only child, I wanted to have friends. You know, you always, as an only child, everyone goes home. You're like, where's my play friends? I want a baby. You know, so the one thing I wanted was to have a family. So everything I do is around my passion, families. Everything that I then start to transmit in there is honesty, integrity. Is like, what pains are there in families? Families can be very complex, but that's okay, right? No one's perfect. So the way we're able to do all these things, a multitude of things, is just by first being ourselves. The reason why we sometimes find it hard to juggle everything is because we're slotting into things that are already there, but it's not truly who we are. So first, find out who we are. You need to go on that journey of self-discovery. No one has a blueprint for that. That is unique to you, as unique as a snowflake. And once you know who that is, once you know how you like to play, once you find your rhythm, once you find your melody, everyone else will start to sing to the rhythm of what you're singing out into the world.
Absolutely. I think I can't speak for all dyslexics, but some dyslexics would like to compare themselves, like that one's done it and I'm not able to do it. I wish I could do that, and I wish I could do that. And I think I actually 100% agree with you. Go with your strengths, define who you are, and just really run with it. You couldn't put that any better than that. Oh, that's absolutely phenomenal. If anybody's joined us, we are talking today about dyslexia and social entrepreneurship. You are not defined by your dyslexia. We have the lovely Sabrina Ben-Salmi, who is dyslexic and who's got 5 children who run her own businesses, and she's doing great, amazing things. Let me just drop this one in here. Your mother's also an author, isn't she?
She is, yes. She is.
So you've got a family of authors, and it's just great, honestly. And I just want to say to anyone watching, if you're watching this program and you've got any questions, please do drop us that comment. If you want to email us later, you can. You can follow Sabrina on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and all the other social medias, I'm sure. And after the show, we will post all her social media platforms, so you can connect with her if you need support, if you want to tap into her business and so forth. She's a really inspirational lady, and I'm so honored. We feel very honored to have you on the show. Yeah. And as a Black woman doing such amazing work, it's honestly, it's the icing on the cake, is all I can say. Oh, right. So the 5th question I've got for you, please share one, I can't say the word, pivotal moment of your successful journey as a dyslexic. What really stands out? What was the pivotal moment for you?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question, and it happened in so many different ways. I'm just trying to think what was the one. I guess I have to go with becoming a mother. I think that pivotal moment for me was the realization that everything I do and every decision I make doesn't only impact me. So if I chose to just be a fabrication of these labels, who will my children become? You know, when we start realizing and living not just for our dream, but for a dream that's so vast and impacts generations. When we start living our lives for someone else that we love dearly, it changes everything. So I think that will definitely be a huge pivotal moment. And I think the domino effect that happened is that when I stopped caring what other people thought of me, that was so liberating. Like, I actually wanted to jump up at that time because people say, but what about this and who? I'm just like, I don't care anymore, because we get to that point of just exhaustion. You know, we all have it. We all have our tipping point. But I got to a point where I was fed up of pleasing everybody else. I was fed up of being and trying and having and trying to impress, especially like as a little girl, trying to impress daddy. I wanted to have all this external confirmation. And the moment when I realized that everybody makes mistakes, nobody's perfect, so why am I wasting my time? Everybody has issues, right? There's no one on this planet that hasn't experienced some level of challenge, contrast, or adversity. So why am I putting myself under so much scrutiny? And at that moment, I realized that I gave myself the biggest gift I can ever do, is that my only business was to focus on my business, that being myself, working on me becoming the best that I was ever than yesterday, challenging myself. Who was I yesterday? Who am I today? And that was it. Other than that, I wasn't interested in anything else.
Yeah. And you know what, Sabrina, I'm 100% agree with you on why do we care what people think? I was at that stage. It was, what will people think of me? What if I make a mistake? What if it doesn't go right? And I think now I look at myself, and I think you recommended an amazing book for me to read, which is, I think, is it Heal Your Life?
You Can Heal Your Life, by Louise Hay.
You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And that was the moment for me, was that actually, let me keep reading. I haven't quite finished it yet. I'm still sort of reading it because I'm a very slow reader. I was trying to find if there was an audible version, but maybe I'm not able to find that. But it's not a big problem. I can finish reading it. And I think it also made me realize that I actually don't care what people say anymore. I'm here to serve, and I'm here for a reason.
Absolutely, because those who love you will do what they can to support you. Those who care will be there, but the rest is just a waste of time, because the truth is you're never going to be able to please them anyway. They say jump this high, then it will be higher, and you're constantly jumping at someone else's orchestration. Who wants to live life like that? Really, and who wants to?
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more when you said, look, you stop caring. It's like, that's the stage I am now. I actually don't really care what people's opinion of me.
That's liberating.
I thought, do you know what? If you think of me less or more, or less, shall I say, that is actually your problem and not mine, because I've gone beyond that. Do you see what I mean? And I'm just focusing on what I'm called to do, and I'll just carry on.
That is so beautiful. You know? And you know what? Just for the purpose of the listeners, because you and I get this. And I just want to put it, because sometimes people misunderstand what we're saying. Yeah. Listeners, we're not saying the arrogance of that we're not able to receive feedback. That's not what it is. It's the constant scrutiny. Someone constantly digging at you. Oh, well, you know, that's not your. When someone wants to service you from a place of saying, you know what, can you tweak this? This will be better. We're able to receive feedback. What we're saying, we're letting go of the baggage. You know, the heavy baggage of trying to please someone that couldn't care less if you were here tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you've got a couple of slides to share with us. And if I move on to the question, maybe you might have those slides for us. So, and I just want to say, Alex, in our studio, we might go till an hour today, because I think it's a really great show. We couldn't just say in 3 minutes we're finished, because there's more to cover. And I think for me, what's really important is that I know so many people have lost their jobs during COVID. So many people are unemployed, some are on furlough, some people don't know whether they're coming or going out for the time. And I think if you are dyslexic and you've got other specific learning difficulties, you may get something out of this today that may make you move forward to start that business you've always put to dormant. Now, go for it is what someone's put there with a big smile. I'm not too sure who that is. But it might be Alex in our studio who said, go for the full 1 hour. We normally do these shows for 45 minutes, but because you've got a lot more to cover, I think it's really important that we share all the stuff that you came with us today to the show today. So I think you've got a couple of slides. I'll just let you go through those slides for me and just talk me through them.
Okay,
if that's
bless you.
okay.
That's very kind of you. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I put these together because I wanted us to really revert that to the other slides that I went through, and more importantly, focusing on the why and the plan. So sometimes our plan, what we think we're going to achieve, is so much greater. So I wanted to show you things like here we have, see if you can see my cursor.
Yeah.
So just in the middle, you've got how thoughts become things, and you've got some actors, and some of them are very renowned. You would know Bob Proctor, so on and so forth. Now, what happened for us is that people started to realize that I was singing my own rhythm. So we've been accredited, we've been inserted into this new movie's credits. And I was astounded because once you write a book, you become an instant author and you go down in history. And once you're recognized in a movie, it's very significant. But all of the kids were also recognized. And my youngest is only 6. And I keep pressing this upon you, is that let go of the end step. Why don't you just plant the seed? And what if as a result of listening to Lizzie and I today, you start planting many seeds, and you start planting seeds far and wide. You start building relationships. You start giving yourself permission to be you. Because the truth is, one of the conversations I had with my children was, the only reason I feel that people need CVs is because they don't have relationships. You see, if your children came to my establishment and needed help, I wouldn't ask them for a reference. Neither would I need to ask for anything, because I know you, I would support them. And it really is that mentality that it takes a village. So what if, as a result of listening today, you went out and started to build those connections? So my son at the top, might be your left or my right. I can't really tell what way his screen is, sorry. So it says Africa around it.
Yeah.
Now, he was at a diaspora African talk, and he was talking to ministers, leaders, and presidents from around the world. But what if we limit ourselves? What if we think, okay, it needs to look like this? Because the truth is, if you're a parent and listening to this, when you give birth to a child, they take on their own personality. They are not us. They come through us, but they don't belong to us. And this is pretty much with our businesses. Our businesses take shape in the very same way when we give it the freedom to. And we really need to give it the freedom and not be claustrophobic around how it needs to be, how it needs to look. And just touching on the essence that right now, everybody's experienced their own version of what this is for them. But if you are in an environment and you're thinking, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough this, the truth is, it's never about the stuff. It's always about resourcefulness. And the reason why I shared about my childhood, the reason I shared that we did a lot of things on our own, because we don't have family around. I can't say not, my mum would strangle me. My mum's been there for all the births. But in terms of my biological family, we didn't have that support. And when they were there, they were quite, I was the ugly duckling in the family. I was the black sheep. So I was the one from the single parent family who they felt was least going to achieve anything. So if you imagine, when we just allow ourselves to own our truth, these are the opportunities that come out. So Trey Sean, you can see a photo here that says the influencer show. Trey Sean actually interviewed Gordana. Now, Gordana is one of Oprah Winfrey's Soul 100 teachers. She's the only one selected from Europe. Now, how did we meet these people? See, when we don't realize the magnitude of our sovereignty, we feel inadequate. We don't feel comfortable. We're not going to share our ideas. I am not scared to ask for help, and I'm not scared to learn something new. I can be the student and the teacher in the same respects. And I really invite you that if you take a good look at your situation, you'll realize it's not a case of resources. It's a case of resourcefulness. We have the internet now. Ask questions. Ask if someone knows someone who knows someone. My daughter, the oldest one, she's a YouTuber, so you can see some pictures. We hang out at YouTube. We create content there. There's some logos of our publishing houses. So the most important thing I want you to understand is that I was able to experience these things the moment I surrendered. And the moment I surrendered and owned my truth, remember, my truth isn't necessarily your truth. Yes. When you own your truth, the truth of where you've come from, the truth of what your pains are, the truth of your so-called weaknesses and so-called, because everything's relative, right? One person's poison is another person's pleasure. So if we surrender from how can I be perfect, the truth is there's no such thing as perfect. So I had to realize that it was my imperfection that was perfect. It was my willingness to learn that was perfect. And if you can at least start seeding that into your lives, these are the elements of fun you can have. I got some logos of Chelsea. They funded our 2-day family workshop. Virgin did the same from July until December for each child, right down to Amir. All 5 of them had their own individual events. I had my own event and my mum. So this is a family of 7 that we all had our events. So if I believed what people were trying to tell me, how would I experience these things? It would be impossible.
Exactly.
Right? So
Wow.
that's really, and then exactly like what Lizzie explained about being listed. When I saw this, of this, they what I love about this was an independent award, and I thought it was phenomenal because someone just sent it to me. I was like, oh my god, what's this? I didn't know it was out. But for me, what was really important, it isn't what I achieved, it was what I accepted about myself. That for me was the biggest award, is that number 2 symbolized that's the true essence of who Sabrina was, not what all the accolades, not all the things that I can do, not all the things I can show people. Who is Sabrina behind closed doors? Does she care about people? Is she owning her truth? Does she have her own ups and downs? Yes. And that's the full nucleus, because we are our shadow selves and no one has to be perfect. But when we accept that, that's when we can be set free. And you can see a list of like logos that the kids have on their banners. And these are brands that they work with and done campaigns with or ambassador for. You know, we go, a lot of things we get to do it for free. Like we stayed at Legoland for free, and, you know, we get sent toys for free. But it's an amazing life. And the reason why I want you to connect with that, I didn't choose it. All I had to do was surrender. And as a result of surrendering, all these magical things happen. You can see Trayshawn there with our family mentor. And again, when you surrender, people are attracted to that. So what if the only thing you have to do is choose you? What if the one thing that's going to set you free is just choosing you?
And I have to really second what you just said there, to be honest with you. When I first started HY Dyslexia, I started with £1.25 in my bank account. Every time I tell this story, people don't believe me. They said, really? That is all I had. But I believed in the vision. I believed in why it had to be done. And I also attracted the right people. Don't get me wrong, Sabrina, I've had my downs. You know, where when you think you actually, you know, you really actually think, I really trust somebody and I can work with somebody, and before you know, it's gone pear-shaped. But for me, that wasn't a failure. It was hard to swallow at the time, but it was a lesson learned. And I think I've become the better of a better entrepreneur, so to speak, learning the way I learned. And again, I have to second, you said something during whilst you were talking. You said something like, it's not about how much money you've got to start that business. Because a lot of people think, oh, I need 1,000, 2,000, £1 million to start this business. I would say start with what you have. And I think Sabrina would agree with me.
Absolutely. If I told you the journey, it'll be too long for this interview.
Absolutely. And you know, and the right people will come, won't they?
Absolutely.
You know, the right people
and every
will come
time it happens, because obviously it's going to hurt. I'm not saying like, I love you being so transparent. People will let you down. And we went through that over and over again. But what we realized is that it was a spiritual upgrade, because where you're going, not everyone can come with you. Now, if you're very spiritual, you'll get what I'm saying. You know, you got this one friend, you want to take them to the house, you want to go shopping with them, you want to, it's not everyone has to go everywhere. So a very powerful lesson that we learned was contextual relationships. We had to nurture the spirit of discernment to know who goes where and for what long, because in life, people in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and it hurts. But I'm telling you, when they start to shed away, it makes space. It makes space for people that are more in alignment, better quality problems. You know, where are we going on holiday next? Where are we buying the house next? What business are we on? If you're realizing that a lot of people with you are really low vibration, when they go, yes, it's painful, but understand it's a spiritual upgrade.
Absolutely. And I can see loads of certificates here. Talk me through them.
So I wanted you to see now, when we went to Brunel, so this is actually the graduation. There's a gentleman there, there's that's standing behind Yasmin. His name's Bill. He's one of the second heads at Brunel University. We were introduced to the Vice Chancellor of Brunel. We met Lady Kitty, who's actually the Queen's cousin. And I wanted you to see the certification, because I don't want to say things without being able to back it up. These are the certificates that my children were awarded. These are the certificates, as you can see, the Ben Salmi family at Vex, which is a robotics company. Now, when you understand that these things are possible for someone who is dyslexic, someone who has learning difficulties, someone who doesn't have family, someone who was a single mom at some point, someone who had a horrendous relationship, we then say, well, they're not really the reasons good enough for us to give up on our vision. They're every reason to say, if you can overcome that obstacle, you can keep going, and you can keep going because it means something to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much for sharing that. And I know that HY Dyslexia was set up from a very painful place. When I didn't have no job, I was unemployed, I was on benefits. I think at the time, now I've been homeless, but that wasn't the time I started HY Dyslexia. And I had nothing. And I think I couldn't sink any deeper. There's a saying that there's only a certain level you can get to. You can't go any lower than that. And it just get to a point where I looked in the mirror and I thought, what can I do? Because it cannot get any worse than how it was. And then the idea of a penny dropped. And that's when I thought, well, actually, because dyslexia affects everybody in different ways. For me, dyslexia, the spectrum of it, for me, it's quite severe. So it was like, actually, why don't I turn this negative into a positive by supporting other people who may be going through struggles with dyslexia. Yeah.
But look at the beginning. You see that beginning? You see, when you take a seed, that seed goes into the soil, and what used to be light now turns into darkness. And the penetration of all the soil that gets laid on top of it, it sometimes feels that it can't get through, but that's the liberation. That's when we expand beyond our wildest dreams. But it's scary at the start.
And the thing is, you have to start, because there's a saying that it's better you start and fail than not start at all, to be honest with you, because you just never know where that could take you. And I've had so many people go, what if it doesn't work? And I said, well, what if it does work? What if it does work? Imagine all these social entrepreneurs starting off. Let's just use someone like, for example, I don't know, the guy who set up Amazon. Imagine him saying, what if it doesn't work? But it did work, and he's the richest man in the world. I've been told,
And you know what? I want to add to that. What if it doesn't work? Because the truth is, sometimes we try to run away from our fears. And I want you to really connect with this, listeners. What if it doesn't work? Yeah. What's the worst that's going to happen? Because you can start another idea. What's the worst that's going to happen? But the best blessing in all of that is that you took heed on your vision to take action. So even if it doesn't work, that's not it. Often we're so fixated on the destination. We're so fixated on the perfection, and we don't realize it's in the getting started and closing, getting started and closing. We're layering, but we don't realize.
Absolutely. Oh, well, Leslie's just come on and say so true. She agrees with what you said. And I think she had a comment earlier. She's really, really enjoying this. I think Leslie used to be a police officer, and I think she chucked it all in to go back and do something completely different. Yeah.
Wow.
So Leslie, thank you for joining us this evening. I don't know if you've got any more PowerPoint. So is that like the last of it, or is there more?
Oh yeah, there is one more. Sorry.
So
I'm so excited. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is powerful. Okay, so during this time, you were talking about this whole pandemic. So I'm very intuitive. Everything is from spirit first. And I remember when we were told to go home, and I said to myself, we're very social beings, but how can we connect? So the kids set up their podcast platforms during this period, and we did one thing. We wanted to connect with people far and wide, because this is a moment in history that we are going to be the most human. We want to connect. We want to support each other. So we came from a position of love and service. So the platform, the podcast, was set up just to support people, to showcase other people's businesses in our network. And something really magical happened. So at the back, just behind Lachey, is a gentleman called Pete Craig, and then beside me is his business partner called Daniel Wagner. And we connected with them. So he actually was going to interview my son was going to interview him. But what happened is that as we came together again, the vision, what we think is the vision and God's vision, two different. So thanks for reminding me about this slide. It's very powerful. So in this period, we created a very conscious business. So all these people came together. There's 9 of us. The young man on the side, he's 15. He lives in Costa Rica. He is mind blowing. But something very powerful happened is that I was fed up of people just saying, what about the education system? And what about parents? Because the truth is, it's none of their fault. Because when we isolate issues, we're forgetting the bigger picture, because it's always collective, because we're always connected. So we wanted to develop this platform called Sava to support scholastic and parental education for our children, because we need to recognize that what's going on is the biggest shift in mankind, but we need to prepare our children for the future. And reading a book and regurgitating is not going to prepare them. What will prepare them is teaching them how to think, teaching them how to believe in themselves, getting them connected with mentors and opportunities. And this is what Sava is all about. So we created this platform that I'm super excited about. I can't even encapsulate is that for the first time, because we haven't seen anything like it, we're going to do peer-to-peer support online in this community, helping parents, helping schools, because collectively there is no limit to what we can achieve. And this took place during this time. So what if we're saying, oh my gosh, it's doom and gloom? What if we're worried and going, what if it doesn't fail? But what if it does work? What if it does work? And behind the scenes, I could tell you there's some magic being brewed for you guys, because I knew what was missing for me when I grew up. I knew what was missing for my children, because my children needed to have family. So if not biological, they had to have spiritual. And this is a platform that's going to bring people together that's very heart-centered. They will learn emotional intelligence, financial acumen. There's so much that we need to start discussing, and it can't be done just at school alone, and it can't be left to the parents. So that's really what this is about.
Wonderful. What does Sava mean? What's the meaning of Sava?
It's all together. All
together.
Yes.
So is that like a certain word from a certain?
Yes, it's a Hindi word. So it's very powerful because it speaks to the soul, because we say we are Sava whenever we go to our meetings, because you are Sava. Sava is about the collective. Sava doesn't, it's all about, it's not just starting with me, it's us. And through the us, all of the solutions to the problems are going to happen. Through the us, people don't have to feel lonely anymore. Through the us, ideas will turn into things. And that's really the message that we're putting out into the world.
Wonderful. And of course, Sava was born during COVID. I think that's what you were saying, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. I'm on to my last question. And then I think our studio is telling me, listen, you need to... You need to wrap up a little bit. So my last question is, what advice have you got for any dyslexic watching this live show and thinking of becoming an entrepreneur? What advice have you got for them?
Oh, beautiful question. So I will do a short answer because of the time. So first and foremost, you're not going to become an entrepreneur. You already are. Yeah. You were born a creator. You have to understand that if you have an apple pie and you take a slice, it's still a slice of the whole. So when you understand the finite sovereignty of who you truly are, you then understand creativity is your birthright. So get out of that labeling of we are or we're not. You are. But are you giving yourself permission to be who you are? So my advice to you is do an assessment of self. Where are you? How do you feel within yourself? Who's around you? What network are you in? Where do you need to transition to? How are you feeling? Where do you desire to feel? Because when you understand what's missing, you can start knowing how to map out, connecting the dots. See, it's wrong of me to just assume that people around you are not supporting you, because I know there are some loving families, loving husbands, loving wives, loving children, but I also know that the opposite is also there. So this is why I'm saying you have to self-evaluate. This is why I always start with, what is your truth? So when you know your truth, you then say, what is it that I've been believing up until this point that I need to start deleting? Because it's in your mindset, in the confinement of your mindset and your belief. And it's not even mindset, because mindset means there's no movement. Okay. Yeah. But it's in the confinement of your mind that will give you the fluidity. So number one, get a coach and get a mentor, because you need someone to be your mirror. You need someone to be able to draw out from within and feel supported. But find out, what does support look like to you? Because it's not the same for everyone. We are not cookie cutters. We are creators. We are sovereign beings. And when you understand what that is, everything else will change. When you think you don't have money, actually it may be an ancestral or bloodline issue that you've been handed down, a learned behavior that's entrapping you. And this is how we freed ourselves. We had to start looking at my mother's bloodline, my father's bloodline, because this part is seen and everything else is spiritual. We forget how much of a spiritual world we live in. So when you start tapping into those different dynamics, I'm telling you, you will look back at your problems and think, what was the problem again? So I hope it wasn't too long, Liz. I know you've got to finish, but that's such a profound question.
That's amazing. Thank you very, very much. And just to add to what you said, Sabrina, along that journey, you will probably have a lot of laughter and a lot of tears. I just want to be real there, because I want to be real, because I've had my fair share of days when I think, oh my goodness. And then, but if you need to shed those tears, then why not shed them? And then when that laughter comes, absolutely.
I second that. Own your truth. Because remember, when you're crying, crying is a release. Remember, it's healing. We look at crying, we run away from it. our emotions are merely our internal guidance system. So when I'm saying start with why, everything makes sense. On those days when you don't want to get out of bed, you remember your why. It could be painful, it could be raining, it could be stormy, but because you know your why, and that being the postcode for the soul, it means that you're still on course. So even those days when you just go, you know what, today it's enough. I've got 5 kids. Do you think I've never spent a day in bed? Do you think I've never cried? Do you think I'm not looking at my child thinking, you can't have a tantrum right now? Like, seriously?
Oh, that's really awesome. Thank you so much. I think just before we go there, a message came up from Sandra. I'm not too sure if Alex is able to put that up for me. And I think it was something like she's really enjoying the show. And thank you for sharing your story. And that message came from Sandra. This is it. You are absolutely amazing. I'm really enjoying this and learning at the same time. And that's from Sandra. And I know she's a great social entrepreneur herself. And she's setting up her business. So she's already probably started sharing it already. I want to say thank you, Sabrina. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Normally it is 45 minutes, but we've gone over, but I think it was worth it. You know, our studio manager saying, right, okay, that was really worth it. I want to say thank you, Sabrina Ben-Salmi. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for the advice you're giving us. Thank you for being you. You are actually one of my inspiration, one of the most inspirational people that I've known. You actually remind me of a British, what can I say, Oprah, shall I say?
Oh, wow.
An Oprah Winfrey. I normally, whenever I see something you do, I think, what a great human being you are. Continue being who you are. You're such a humble lady. And I feel so privileged to have had you on our show this evening. Thank you. Thank you so much. So this is to our viewers. If you joined us today, we were talking about Dyslexia and Social Entrepreneur. You are not defined by your dyslexia. At some point, share this with your friends. Sit down and watch it again. There's some really amazing tips that was given on the show. And I want to thank everybody for joining us on all things dyslexia and being on the show this evening as well. Next week, we've got the amazing Ruth. And Ruth will be talking about, let me see if I've got Ruth's surname now here. Ruth Dankwa, I think is her name. The title of the show will be Dyslexia, How to Overcome Self-Sabotage. And I think it ties in really well with this. I wanted Sabrina to say goodbye. I wondered if, yes, there she is again. When we're having a live show, anything can happen, by the way. Sabrina, thank you so much. It's an honor to have you on this show. And I don't know if you want to say anything to the viewers before we go. Yeah.
You know, I want to thank you for inviting me into this space because listeners, if you don't know, speaking to Lizzie and Martin, it was the time when I realized it's time for me to start sharing that aspect of me. Remember I say about owning your truth? I had done so much work to just continue my life without these labels, but I know that by sharing a story, and this message is for you as well, when you share your story, you give other people permission to do the same. So I really thank you for inviting me here because, you know, my kids were like, oh my gosh, Mum, like you haven't spoken about this before, and different people been having conversations. But again, it's really connecting with the fact that it's not a shadow that I'm embarrassed by. It's something that I'm very proud of because it gives greater testimony to the outcome. See, when you share that aspect, it gives greater testimony to the outcome. Tell the truth of how you got to that front line, because the truth is we all didn't get there the same. Some of us crawled, some of us bled, some of us had to beg, borrow and steal. So the truth of who you are is worth honoring. So thank you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Alex. And thank you, listeners. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So viewers, we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Take care, look after yourself. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye.